For anybody that might be new to the channel, I've been building out a 2024 Tacoma Trailhunter equipped with a Bone Customs bed and an Alu-Cab mod cap camper. And of course on the electrical, I'm using Redarc Electronics. Hey guys, Tyler with Independence Overland. So today I'm on another day of customizing the Alu-Cab because I do have the entire Redarc system that I need to actually install. And to do that, I need to build a battery mount for this truck, which is going to be kind of a specialized thing, as you might imagine. So my plan in here is to put the refrigerator right here, which is going to be kind of a pain to get into, but it'll serve as a bench and it also keeps it out of the way. Obviously you want to have the opening of the camper open. So I'm putting a big Snowmaster in here. I've got my Expion 360 162 amp hour battery. I'm pumped about having this thing. I'm working with Expion 360 on this truck. I did have 50 amp hours in the FJ, which I got away with for a long time. The more I've started carrying camera equipment, the more I've struggled with that because I've got two big cameras now. I've got my drone, of course, and then this camper has way more lights on it. And then I've got the awning lights that I put on here, the GoFlux lighting. I put lights inside of my cabinets here so I can utilize those at night. And I just wanted to have more power this time around. So I wanted to get a quality battery that was a heated battery, and I wanted quality electronics in this. So that's why I'm putting the Redarc stuff in here. Wiring is a huge, huge project. I personally enjoy it. I kind of feel rushed right now because I'm trying to get this thing ready for the season, but I don't want to take shortcuts. So I bought a bunch of stuff for this project. And of course I will put links for all this stuff for anybody that's out there tricking out their own camper. The main components that I'm installing in this truck are the TVMS Rogue, the RedVision controller, the BCDC Alpha B, and the smart battery monitor. So yes, I am sponsored by Redarc, and one of the things they sent me is their Alpha 50 wiring kit. So with these chargers now, the game has changed. These things are super cool, and I'm very excited about this because I have had actually some issues with this truck. I had this truck go dead on me once. When Bowen had this, it went dead on them. So one of the coolest features about this, and the reason I'm talking about dead vehicles, is now Redarc has a back charging system. So if you wake up at camp and your truck is dead, you can go into the app and back charge it, and it'll pull battery power from your house battery, your lithium battery, whatever you're using, and it'll slowly trickle charge your starting battery so you can get your vehicle started again. So being able to back charge my system, it's just one of those things where I feel like I don't need to carry like a jumper box now. So I will definitely be utilizing that. It's rare that I've had a dead battery out in the middle of nowhere, but I like the option that it's there. And then the other thing is if your battery's at 100% and you've got solar on your vehicle, what it'll do with that solar if you're sitting at camp, or if you got it parked in a parking lot somewhere because you're doing a hike, whatever it is, once your house battery is fully charged, it'll start taking that extra power and it'll put it into your starter battery just to maintain that as well. Okay, so I got my big wiring through the bed over here. Now I'm about to take my goose gear board and I'm gonna drill this out, and I'm going to mount the Redarc RedVision monitor. I'm excited to put this in and really capitalize on all of the things that the Redarc Rogue system has to offer. This has 10 outputs. It's got dimming capabilities. You can trigger certain things with this based off of a ground, based off of a power input, based off of a sensor. So I'm gonna utilize that a little bit. On this system for the TVMS, this has got 10 inputs and outputs, like I was saying. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna run each and every one of those to this little bus bar. And what this is, for anybody that's not familiar with these things, is this is just a pass through, and then they got the little block there. So you put a ring terminal on it, or a little fork terminal, whatever they're called, and you loosen that side up and you connect your accessory like a light, and on this side goes to the control. So in the future, instead of having to cut things and rewire things, all I have to do is loosen a screw, plug it on there, and I'm good to go. For anybody out there that's gonna be wiring any sort of electrical stuff, things I've learned over time, this will save you so much time down the road. Just spend the 10 bucks on this for, I think it was 10 bucks for two, is actually cheaper than that. To have something like this somewhere where you can reconnect things, if you change out an accessory at some point and you want that channel going to something, even if it's just a toggle switch, this will save you a lot of time. So you don't have to go in and cut wiring off, try to solder it. Sometimes you get into tight spaces and stuff like that. This can just save you a lot of hassle. I did buy a bunch of button head bolts off of Amazon, which will match what Goose Gear and GP Factor supply with this, because when you buy this from Goose Gear, this does not just mount up And I bought this, I paid full price for it. But this won't just mount up. You have to buy the GP Factor kit to mount it, or you could build your own. So I'm gonna get to, I'm gonna mount the RedVision on this right now, and I'm gonna mount my TVMS system, and then I will go from there on how I'm gonna wire everything else. Back in the shop today, and I have been working on my Redarc panel pretty much every night after work, and now I've got this thing pretty dialed in. I think I'm waiting for one more little bus bar to come in the mail today. So the way the Redarc Rogue works is it has 10 channels that are 10 amps each at a maximum of 40 amps. So for my camera stuff and all these lights and stuff that I use, they're gonna be charging on a constant basis, and that takes up a lot of power, especially something like my drone. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna have one of these turn on a 50 amp relay, and that will give 50 amps on a completely separate setup to where I can run all of that kind of power, and it won't be a problem at all, and it doesn't overload what the Redarc can do. And it's kind of designed that way. I do like that it's so low profile compared to the RedVision. The RedVision is, or the RedVision Prime as they now call it. That's a cool system. I had it in my camper, in my Conqueror camper. But in this little thing, I just don't have that much space. So having something that's this compact and I can still do a lot of the same stuff, I can throw a couple relays in, perfectly happy to do that. They're super simple to wire, especially the style that I bought. So we'll dive into that more in this video. But I wanted to touch base on what these do on the Rogue. And what these are signal switches. So you can do multiple things with these. These ones over here are for sensors, so I kind of wired those. Those are the Rastafarian colors, and those will go to their own little bus bars here for in the future if I do a temperature sensor. These wires though, these are signal wires. What these do is these allow you to put in like a toggle switch or something. So I can control everything with the RedVision, or I could go through and flip on a switch in the cab if I wanted to, and it would turn on a certain switch if I wanted it to do that. What I'm gonna use these for is this truck had because this is the Trailhunter, and I removed the factory bed, it came with those factory bed lights, and I was a big fan of the bed lights. So because I lost those with this bed, and I don't want to cut into this bed to modify them in the same location, I got some Baja Designs rock lights, and I'm going to angle those down and use the same signal to turn those on. I have a piece of extrusion up against the wall there. That was pretty much to test the fitment on my battery and if it pushed my battery out too far, because I want that to be basically flushed with the bottom of the water tank, because there's a little bit of a gap and it's gonna work perfectly. In this situation, very few fridges are actually gonna fit underneath that. So what I'm gonna do is I'll have my fridge up against that water tank, pretty much flush with it, and you have to so you can open it and stuff, of course. But I wanted room behind it so I could have the battery, the BCDC back there. And so I need to go through, utilize some of these bolts on the Bowen bed, and I'm gonna have 2 T-slot aluminum extrusions going across the back. I've got some bedline coated pieces of wood too that I could use, but I need to build a power board because that board is gonna have to have fuses on it. It's gonna have to have relays on it, the BCDC system, and then some wiring on it to kind of hide and tidy some of this up. So I'm gonna get cracking on this, and I'm hoping to make some good progress today. Redarc provides access to tons of diagrams which do come in these kits, but for me, I prefer to draw out some of my own diagrams on the iPad to help wrap my head around the project. Drawing out the components of a 12-volt system helps me identify potential issues that I hadn't thought of before, and helps get my mind working to solve problems on how everything will come together, and I highly recommend you do the same. And if you've never done 12-volt wiring before, you're more than capable of doing so with a Redarc system, but I do recommend you buy their wiring kit so you don't get the incorrect or undersized wires. Having confidence to do some wiring will save you hundreds, if not thousands, on labor costs. It gives you confidence of self-repair when traveling, and it just gives you an overall sense of accomplishment with your build. You don't have to go as far as I do, but I do think that everybody should at least do a little bit of their own wiring. On the back of the Bowen bed, I don't want to drill any holes where I don't have to, just because I try to avoid that anyway, especially with things I just got, because things are going to change in the future. I'll always end up reorganizing something, reutilizing something, and I just don't like drilling holes and stuff when I really don't have to, unless it's like a cheap replaceable part. So what I'm doing here is I have some extrusion laying around. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my T-slot. I'm going to try not to use too much of this stuff, because even though it's lightweight and it's aluminum, it does add weight. So I'm going to have a few of these that kind of hug the battery, and then I'm going to have the corner pieces, and then over here I'll have a few more of these where I can bolt on my electrical panel, and then my electrical panel will be right next to my battery. And then this will all just bolt in as one big piece. This is not the electrical panel I'm talking about. I've got another section over there that I need to trim down a little bit, but I think this is gonna work perfect. And I wanted to be able to do this outside of the truck. So all I will have to do is re-secure the thing and attach the 4 bolts. I may put some foot bolts in too that go down to the bigger bolts on the floor of the bed. So I'm gonna put the system together real quick, put all my little T-nuts in and everything. And I think that this is gonna work out pretty good. These are just, for anybody that's not familiar with this stuff, it's very popular. I would argue that Goose Gear made this the most popular. They have some of the lightest weight versions of it. This is just from tnuts.com. It's on the East Coast, and I've bought all sorts of stuff from those guys in the past. All these bolts and stuff are from there, and I've had them just sitting around for years, so this is gonna work good. What I have here is I have these 2 relays, which are rated, I think, for 120 amps, but I'm only gonna use them for about 50. One of them is gonna be for the HVAC system. So it's gonna be for an Anderson plug, basically. So I could technically use it for whatever I want, but because the Redarc Rogue is only 10 amp channels, what I will do is I'll use one of those channels as an output to come to here and turn one of these on, and that will run the HVAC system. So if I wanna run the Zero Breeze air conditioner off of my Rogue system, then I had to put one of these big relays on. And these things are cheap. They're like, I think they're like $7 or $8 a piece. They're rated for 120 amps. I'm only gonna be using them for 40 to 50 roughly. And they'll also include diesel heater, because diesel heaters also have, and gasoline heater I have, they have a high amperage draw. So the Rogue might not be the best fit for that, but because it's so simple to wire up one of these types of relays, I'll just run it off of that and it'll be fine. And so I will put a fuse in line with these as soon as I am running that wiring. I don't know that I'm gonna get to that today. And then the other one that I have here, and this is running to this little bus bar, this is gonna be for my USB stuff, because I am, this is a production truck, so I gotta charge a bunch of cameras and stuff like that. You might have different needs, but for me, I needed something that could power a bunch of stuff. My drone alone takes like 10 amps whenever it's charging the 3 battery bank that I have for it. And I'm gonna have that. I'm gonna have USB-C 100 watt chargers and stuff coming off of this. And I wanna be able to use that stuff when the truck's parked. I'm used to doing that with the FJ. I can use solar to run stuff. I can use the battery power to run stuff. And because this has 162 amp hours of Expion lithium in it, then I can sit at camp and not worry about depleting my battery. I should be able to run a lot of stuff, charge a lot of stuff, and not have to concern myself with it. Not everybody understands relays, so let me break it down real quick. For higher amperage loads, a simple toggle switch usually can't carry the electrical load without overheating. Most off-the-shelf toggle switches are rated to about 10 amps, so let's use my crude drawing here as an example. Here I have a light bulb that's rated at 40 amps and a toggle switch at 10. If I try to wire that directly, the toggle switch overheats and blows a fuse, or worst case, catches on fire. The only thing that changes with the relay is a relay is designed to handle a higher load. So you wire the relay just like you would the light bulb, but instead of turning on a light bulb, you're turning on a relay. And the relay itself has a direct power to your battery source, and that's pretty much it. You turn it off, it disconnects, you turn it on, it clicks back on. In a nutshell, that's how a relay works. And I got in a hurry here and forgot to draw on the fuses, so I needed to do that for the critics. The whole purpose of the Redarc Rogue system along with the BCDC is to make this a pretty simple system. I am complicating this with some of my own custom wiring, so just realize that this is not necessary for everybody. So I've got a lot of work ahead of me still, but I made some progress. It's nice just to have power in here. And it's crazy, it gives perspective. I'm not filming absolutely every little thing, of course. I'm shutting the cameras off so I can just get some stuff done. But whenever you go in to have a camper put on a truck and you see the installation costs, especially if they're running some wiring for you, this is why. Now the Alu-Cab does have a simple wiring system. You can hook it up a lot easier. You could hook it to a battery like this, but that's not my style. I like the electrical side of things and I want it to be customized. And so I'm going through the trouble of doing all this because I enjoy it. Okay, so there's still some more tidying up of wires and stuff that I have here, but I'm largely finished up with the install. And those are just the boring little things that I'll do in my little bits of free time. But these things have some pretty cool features. So what I did is I went through, and this is the Rogue, and so what I touched on earlier is each channel of the 10 channels can only do 10 amps. So what I've got is I've got my USB, and that's for the USB that's in the Alu-Cab here. So whenever I turn that off, I can see there's a little blue light up there. These things come with that built in. So it's powered by that. So now my phone charger's up top by the bed. They're now on. The other thing is I need high output USB. So I ran these to a high output relay basically. I think it's a 150 amp relay, but I'll only be running around 50 amps off of it. So I don't know if you can hear that, but click, turns on, turns off. And then I did the same thing on the next page for the HVAC, which will turn on my fan heater over here for the fireplace. Also, that's going to be a 50 amp circuit. So whenever I'm running the Zero Breeze AC, or if I'm running a diesel heater, that's going to be my HVAC setup. I've got my refrigerator on one of these. For this big, I have a massive Snowmaster in here. This is out of my Conqueror camper. That is on a lockout. So I went through and programmed it in the system. So what that means is that that switch cannot be turned off. Nobody can come over here and accidentally turn my fridge off. Okay, so now that I've had the opportunity to actually use this system since installing all this stuff, I want to do kind of an overview of what I've done here. So something I did is, of course, you can go through and you can set up manual controls for everything. You can do that. But what I did is when everything's off, I went through and I set up a mode to where when I turn that on, it'll turn on all the lights in the camper, in the cabinets, on the awning, and my scene lights out here. So on the flip side is even at the end of our trip, if we're packing up in broad daylight, some of this stuff will still be on from, you'll have lights on because you're inside and there's not quite enough light or something like that. And then these might be on, you don't even notice it. But because I have the USB and stuff tied into it too, whenever I'm packing up, I can hit this button and I know that it's turned everything off. Yes, I could go through and do all this stuff manually. It's not like it's that hard to do that, but you have the ability to do something like this, so why not do it? One of the other things I need to touch on here is I'm using the Go Flux lights in both my cabinet and on my awning. And both cabinets have this. It's an amber, a red, and a white light. And so those are independently dimmable. There's a switch on them where I can go through and dim them just like that, and which is nice because it remembers that. The other thing with the Redarc though is that I can dim these with this as well because I set it up that way. So when I hold that button down, I can dim those down, which is nice. And the other cool part about that is I have it set up to where they will turn on at 100% every time. So whenever I hit that, it'll go back to 100%, but you can select those to be dimmer. So what you can do is you can go in and set this up to where that they turn on at 50%. So that way, every time you get out, you turn them on for the first time, they'll be at 50%. And then whenever you want to change that, you hold it down and it'll dim down, or you do the other way, hold that button down and they get back to 100%. They can't control the lighting color of these, obviously, because that's built into these lights themselves. But on these lights up here, I can just do that manually, and however I leave it, they're gonna be set up that way. So it's kind of a nice function to go along with this. So that's just the way I set mine up, and I think it's kind of cool. Let me turn off my camping mode so everything turns back off. So something I did on my setup is I use the signal wire to where my bed lights will turn on my scene lights. So whenever I'm out and about, if I'm doing a recovery or something, I can use those from my house battery still. It's running through the Redarc system and the big Expion 360 battery I have sitting behind my fridge. These are now running off that versus the factory bed lights are running off the truck's battery, which I didn't particularly love. I love the lights, but I didn't love that they're running off that battery. So now I could run these pretty much forever, not worry about my truck not starting. But I can have these to where they turn on with the door, just like factory, because this is just using the truck switch itself, or I can just turn them off and have them completely off. But the cool side is even if I have these set up like that to where they turn on with the door, I can override them with the Redarc system. So whenever I go back here and I want to turn those off or on, I always can. And again, I can dim those. So it's one of those things where if I want to have those super dim, I can do that. So you don't have to choose dimming option on this, of course. You can just have it to where they're on and off, but you do have more options.
And you can also, with any of this stuff, you can also set these up with timers. So if for some reason you want a light like this to be on for 5 minutes, you can set it up to where they'll turn on for 5 minutes and they'll turn off. And because these have a signal input, if you're the type of person that camps in places where you like to have some like security lights on your camper, what you can do is you can buy cheap motion detectors that are just like little bulbous thing. You'd run those into the Rogue system, and then you could have it to where it turn these lights on, and maybe it turns them on for 5 minutes at a time. So you can do some really neat stuff with it. And I've got one more thing I'm gonna do with mine in the future. I'm not ready to do that yet, so I'm not even gonna talk about it yet, but there's one more thing I'm gonna do that's gonna be pretty cool in the future with this system and utilizing those inputs and outputs, and I think it's gonna be pretty neat. The other cool part about this thing is being able to do it from your phone. So it's really nice with something like this, where if I'm sitting around the campfire and I notice that there's a bunch of bugs trying to get into the screens or something, rather than having to jump up to go unzip the screen to turn off the problem, I can just do that from afar, and that's really what I was using it for the most part. I sleep on the other side, on the passenger side, and the control unit's on the driver's side. So when we're going to sleep, and Natalie is all bundled up, and Blue's in the bottom of the truck, and she's all ready to go, I'll get in bed, and then I can turn off the final lights for the night, and I can also get a quick look at it and make sure that everything is turned off. So if the awning's put up or something, I can see, oh, the awning lights are still on. It's kind of a nice feature to have, and you can see that on the display as well, but it's just one of those things. So also in the middle of the night, if somebody has to go out and go to the bathroom or something like that, you can turn on lights outside or something without even turning the screen on. Like right now it's not lighting up, so it doesn't disturb somebody else, even though you're probably gonna wake them up getting out anyway. But it's just a small feature that's really handy. So anyway, I'm in love with the Redarc system. I knew I would be. I've used this stuff in the past. It's just this is a slightly updated version. The Rogue is kind of like a slimmer, more customizable, even more so than the Prime was, setup. So it's perfect for what I've got going on here. And now that I've actually used this thing, I've gone out and filmed some and camped with this thing. It is really nice to have this whole setup. This whole electrical system is just fantastic. All right, guys, so that's what I have for you on the Redarc system. This truck is turning out just awesome, and it's been a privilege to be able to work with some of these companies and just build this thing. I'm so pumped about it. If you guys have any questions about the Redarc system, please drop those questions below. Happy to answer it. Thank you guys so much for watching, and until next time.
As always, thank you so much for watching, and click one of the videos in the corner to check out more of our adventure, off-road, and overland related content.